Hey guys, it's Tim and Bobby again for another episode of The Couch. We're here on location today. Where are we, Tim?
We're at the LargeCarMag Southern Classic, the third annual LargeCarMag Southern Classic Truck Show in Lexington, Virginia.
And basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be covering some footage of the event.
Right.
We're going to be doing some interviews with the truckers. We're going to be talking about some of the things, some of the products that they have on their truck, some of the custom work that they've done here. We're also going to be taking some photographs for the magazine, both online and in print. And basically we just wanted to come to you today, talk about a little bit of the gear we brought, why we brought it, some of the challenges we're going to face.
We have some direct sunlight issues today.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of, you basically have, this is what we have to work with, direct sun,
and you can, you can probably see that on on this shot right now. It's pretty bright. So
so we'll talk about some of the challenges of that, because we can't control that. So
all right guys, so we'll see you back in the studio.
All right,
thanks.
Catch you later.
All right guys, so we're back from the truck show in Virginia. We're actually back in the studio here in West Virginia. We have a couple shots that we want to go through. Like we said before, we're going to talk about some of the challenges we faced, some of the ways we overcame that, and some of the equipment that we used, and just basically the fact that knowing the limitations of your equipment can be a great asset. So first thing, I want to start off with this image I have here. Now in this photo, of course, this was taken in direct sunlight, one of the worst possible times during the day. So basically, what I had to do in this shot, because it was direct sunlight, I knew that somewhere on this shot there was going to be a shadowed panel somewhere. What I had to do was guess as to where my light meter is going to pick up and give me exposure for. Well, I automatically knew it was going to be incorrect because I'm using spot metering, and if I hit a spot on the grill, it's going to say I'm way overexposed. If I move to some darker paint, it's going to say I'm way underexposed. So it's pretty much a guessing game. And once you get it dialed in, you can use that for a little while until the shadow or the clouds start moving in and change everything. So basically, I knew already from experience and from practice that even with a shadowed panel, I'm going to be able to, with the raw file that my camera gives me, I'm going to be able to bump up those shadows and bump up that clarity, and it's going to take care of any of that. It's going to bring that detail back into that shadowed panel, plus it's going to lighten it up a little bit, and it's going to make the light not look as harsh.
And that's a good point too. You want to shoot in RAW for this. What you're talking about, it really is important to shoot in RAW.
This could never be done in JPEG. No. The information in the file is just not there. And the other problem I had, especially with this particular photo, it's a blue truck, and if you look, there's a blue sky. But luckily, and I'm shooting at a really low angle to make these trucks look extremely aggressive, and luckily, this band of clouds just started rolling in, so I just waited until they got in enough to where I could actually use that as a separator, again, using your rule of thirds, to break up the sky from the truck. So I want to go ahead, in this image I'm just going to show you the before. You can see how in the original shot there's a lot of harsh highlights and a lot of dark shadows, and all that detail and those pinstriping on the side pretty much disappears. But when you crank up the clarity and the shadows, it brings all that detail back in. Let's move to the next one. Now this shot, I ran into another issue. Now the sky is not so much an issue because we have the chrome against the clear blue sky, which I liked because the chrome is kind of clean and smooth and polished. The sky is smooth and polished, so it kind of works well. The only thing you have to pay attention to, if you look, you'll see these like starbursts that appear on some of the edges of the chrome. You have to make sure when you're composing your shot, not only is your subject in frame, but that those starbursts kind of line up where you want them to, because they're going to be there no matter what you do.
Especially in these trucks.
Right.
It's chrome everywhere.
So what you have to do is basically you put that viewfinder up to your eye, you get it composed where you want it composed, but then you kind of have to manipulate it a little bit and move around a little bit to get those starbursts aligned in the right area for the shot to actually work. Move on to the next one. This one, kind of the same trick. Those clouds were rolling in. But I wanted to show this one because we have the separation between the truck and the sky with the clouds. But in this one, we also get that nice those nice starbursts on a lot of the corners of the chrome. And that was another thing. I wanted to make sure that the starbursts were on the corners. So again, the truck is aggressive because of the low angle, but also now the points, the corners of all this chrome looks extremely sharp and polished, as opposed to if you just had it in the middle, just in an odd place. So you have to think about the placement of those kind of things too. And now this technique, or this photo, what it did was, this truck had an enormous chrome grille on it and had a real hard time getting a shot of it, and you can still see a little bit of my legs here. It's extremely hard to shoot with just a regular lens. So what I did, I popped the fisheye on there, and because that thing was so aggressive and so enormous, I was like, let's make it even bigger. Let's exaggerate it even more and blow it out there. And then by doing that, because the fisheye is such a wide angle lens, you start to pick up some of the sun up here in the corner, which if it's going to be there, we might as well use it. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And then we'll move on. Now this is later on in the evening. Things get a little bit easier, but then again you run into another issue. But this all rolls back to the practice and knowing what kind of equipment you're going to need and knowing the problems that can come up. So now we have some clouds coming in, the sun kind of setting. But what happens now is our shutter speeds start to slow down because of the light. And what we need to do, of course, we're running high f-stops to get these large objects in focus. What we have to do then is put everything on a tripod. So now, but this is something, if you didn't realize this and you went to a shoot and you realize, okay, now my shutter speed's slowing down, I don't want to adjust my f-stop because I want everything nice and in focus. I can only go to ISO, whatever, 3200 before I start getting grain. I don't have a tripod. Now what do I do? And this is, again, where practice always comes in to play. Let's see. Now this is the last image I'm going to show today. This is my favorite image.
This was great.
This is the best thing I've ever seen. Actually, I've never seen anybody else do this ever.
I was shocked to see it, but it does tell a little bit of the story.
So, if you look at this image, there is a piece of tape, Scotch tape, over the pop-up flash on this Nikon camera. And at first glance, you would say, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong with the camera. Maybe it's just But when a photographer looks at this, when Tim and I looked at this,
I said, get your camera out right now.
He said, take a picture of that. And I looked down, and automatically I knew what he was talking about. The Scotch tape is holding down the pop-up flash because whoever's using this camera is obviously shooting in automatic mode.
Exactly.
And they don't understand why their pop-up flash is constantly popping up.
Exactly.
So did you want to talk a little bit about your
I can show.
f-stops?
You can. I'll show my thing, and then maybe you can go back and show some of the techniques you used if we have time. But what I wanted to show was I had heard that f-stops make a big difference when you're shooting bright lights in dark situations. So let's say you're shooting a lighthouse, or in this case I'm shooting these trucks in the dark with lots of lights on them. And what I heard was your f-stop will actually determine whether or not you get a little starburst effect. So as it turns out, the higher the f-stop, the more of a starburst effect you get. The lower the f-stop, the less of a starburst effect you get. Now, I didn't know if this was true or not. I assumed it was, but I thought, let's find out if this is actually correct. So I shot this shot right here. This is at 2.8. And you can zoom in here on this light. You see it's in focus, but the lights themselves are pretty soft, and there's no starburst whatsoever. The same exact shot at f22. Look at that. The starburst like crazy. So you'll see them up here on this truck. They're all over the place. So if you see shots where there's starbursts, it's probably not a filter. It's probably just the fact that the f-stop is really high. And to do this, you're going to have to, your f-stop's 22, so it's going to be a really small aperture, which means really low, really long shutter speed. This is 2.5 seconds. So tripod, of course, for these. And again, here's another shot. This is f11. You can look at that starburst, it's crazy. Same shot at 2.8, and look how soft that light is. There's some starbursting, but not much.
Nothing as dramatic and sharp as the others there, for sure.
Yeah. So that's just a tip I found out. You know, if you're trying to do starburst, look at your f-stops, keep an eye on them. High f-stops equal starburst, low f-stops equal not any starbursts, maybe not even any at all. So on your shots, you have some really nice, I wouldn't say HDR effect, but I mean there's a lot of dynamic range in these, and a lot of, you know, you can see that the clarity was used to pull out a lot of detail in these images.
Well, one of the things that actually I like to do with a lot of my photos that help the subject stand out from the background when the background's a little plain. So for example, in this photo, you have a blue sky and then a blue truck, and we have it separated by the clouds. What I like to do in this case is I'll actually come in here and I overexpose the subject, maybe by a stop. Okay. And then I'll crank up my shadows a little bit. And this is all variant depending upon what kind of conditions you're in. But I'll slide up the shadows a little bit to bring back some of that detail, especially in the wheels down here and so forth.
Yeah.
But like I said before, I overexpose it a little bit. And then what I'll do is just slide on down here to the bottom, and I'll put a vignette. And what that does, and it's a real soft vignette. Now the corners may be a little bit hard, but what that does is it makes that truck pop out in the middle. And the reason I overexpose it a little bit is because the feathering on these vignettes are so much that it actually brings down the exposure a little bit of the truck.
Yeah,
so you're trying to get that to pop off there. So if I just turn off this vignette, you can see it's pretty flat.
Yeah.
But when you add that back on there, it makes that truck really pop off that sky.
Your eye doesn't wander nearly as much. Now you're looking right at that truck. I mean, that vignette's actually pointing your eye down to the center of that truck. So
exactly. And like I said, you do have to overexpose it a little bit. I mean, that's a lot hotter than you would normally have it.
Yeah.
So you have to do that because it does cover quite a bit of that area. Yeah. Same thing for this. If you turn off it's a big difference because now it's a piece of chrome on this blue background.
Yeah.
But when you do this, it almost makes that centerpiece just pop right off the.
Same thing again. Your eye is drawn. It was already. But
because you have so much.
Yeah.
But again, that can cause a problem as well when there's so much bright and so much white. It's like, okay, that's generally my focal point, but there's so much here, I have no idea what to look at.
Yeah.
So that vignette does kind of help a little bit. And again, you don't want to go overboard with something like that either.
Right.
So then everybody's like, oh my God, this guy has a vignette on everything.
That's true.
And you don't want to do it on everything like this one here.
Yeah, it is kind of a thing where you have to be selective about it.
Right.
Because there's times where it actually will take away.
Right, there's no vignette on here, but if I were to put one, that's too much. If I were to put one, it doesn't really help this at all.
Yeah.
Now there's no vignette because I wanted burn your retina.
Yeah.
Because this is already so crazy to your eye because it was so huge to begin with, and we use a fisheye. It's so much more pronounced, and then you got the sun in there.
Yeah, I think in this one you use the sun to your advantage.
Right.
You can tell that there's a direct shadow and the sun is like blazing down, but the truck is so bright.
It's so bright and it's so overbearing.
Yeah.
That you need something extremely overbearing
to
kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
And then this one, well, there's no vignetting or anything. This picture, this is one of those where you say to yourself, this is a gallery shot. This is something I'll probably hang on my wall.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to clean that up at all. It's perfect.
That's a nice shot, yeah.
Remember, put interesting things in front of your camera.
That's right.
Your photos
that's kind
always
of
look better.
Yeah. Really don't recommend this technique. Ever.
No.
Ever.
It's probably not good on the motor on the camera either.
I wouldn't think that'd be good, no.
So that's pretty much it, guys.
Yeah.
We just wanted to report back. Now that we're back from the show,
yeah.
I'm going to show us some of the footage we had. And next week, Tim is we're going to try and finish the extended episode on
Wi-Fi tethering. Yes, we had a little snafu with equipment. As it turns out, the iPad needs some equipment to get the image or the video from the iPad to the computer. Didn't have it. I should have it next week, so we'll catch up with that next week. So that's it.
All right, guys. That's
all right. I think that's it.
That's it.
I think we're good.
All right. Thanks.
Catch you guys next time.